to show you a few easy steps to take your existing countertops, prep them, and get ready to pour epoxy. Stay tuned and enjoy the video. So with our economy taking a nosedive like it has over the last few months, I've had so many people reach out to me and say they want to redo their countertops, but they don't want to build new countertops because the price of building material. So what I'm going to do is show you guys how to prep and get ready to do an on-site pour. The first thing you need to know is if you have a countertop like this one, which is a basic laminate countertop that you see in a lot of the homes today. Also, if you are going over granite, you'll want to do these same steps. Before you start, you need to make sure that your surface is level. That is very, very important, because if you do all this prep work and your countertops are not level, whenever you do your pour, because epoxy is fluid, it's all going to run. So that's the first thing you need to do. There's a few things that you can do to fix if it's unlevel. First of all, you can shim, maybe go up underneath your cabinets and shim to adjust. Also, if you're really out of level, you may want to go in with a concrete overlay, quick drying, self-leveling concrete. You can do that, create an overlay, let that dry, sand it, and then proceed with the steps that I'm fixing to show you. Another thing that you'll want to make sure of is check your edges. Now on this particular piece, our edges are already rounded over, which is going to allow the epoxy to roll over very easily. Now, if you have countertops that have a 90-degree edge, you really want to try to get rid of that 90-degree, because what's going to happen is as your epoxy is flowing, it gets to that edge and it has surface tension and it doesn't want to roll over. As it starts to kind of cure, it starts to thicken up. And then if it rolls over, a lot of times you'll get your little drips and you don't get a very smooth edge. The best way to address that is a belt sander. You can do that. Knock off those edges, even with an orbital sander. Even if it chips your edges, you can come back with Bondo, smooth out those edges, sand them, and you'll be ready to go. Now, if you have a countertop that has the non-drip edge, meaning it has a hump to prevent spills, those are really difficult to tackle. You'll really want to take a belt sander, sand all that down, and then Bondo and sand. Now, I've seen people try to just pour normally, and what happens is right on top of that ridge, your epoxy is going to be very, very thin, because what's happening, that ridge is causing the epoxy to backflow down, and you don't get really good coverage. So if at all possible, I really recommend that you take that ledge off. The next thing that you want to do, and I highly recommend this, is if you have a countertop that's got a built-in backsplash, if at all possible, take that backsplash off. Take a jam saw. You can also take an all-in-one tool. Come in, remove the backsplash, and then make a backsplash. This one we made for a job. It's just MDF, 3/4 inch. You can also use 1/2 inch. You can also use foam as a backsplash. And we do have a couple of really cool videos on showing you how to do foam backsplashes, and we'll link those in the description below. The reason we like to take off that backsplash is because it's a vertical surface. It's going to be nearly impossible to get the same design pattern as you're going to get on your flat surface, because epoxy is fluid, it's going to run, your design is not going to stay. So there's several different ways to create a backsplash if you decide to keep it on, and we'll talk about that later in the video. So if you guys have any questions on how to remove that backsplash, how to prep your surface, we do teach all of this in our DIY masterclass as well as our pro class. So check out our website, RK3designs.com, and see all that we can teach you guys. All right, so let's say that you are ready to go. It's level and you're ready to get started with actually prepping the surface. So the first thing you're going to want to do is clean the entire surface with isopropyl alcohol or another equivalent cleaner. You can also use TSP. However, if you do use TSP, make sure you go back over it with alcohol to remove any of the residue. Once that's dry, then you're going to want to start sanding. And when you sand, you want to use an aggressive sandpaper. If you're going over a laminate, you can get away with 120. I suggest something a little lower grit than that. If you're going over a granite, you can go as low as, say, 60 grit. You want to create a tooth. Now, it doesn't have to be deep, really deep sanding patterns. You just want to create a tooth so that when you go to the next step, which is our bonding primer, you really have created a tooth for that bonding primer to grab onto. All right, so you really can't tell, but this is the bare laminate as if it were in our kitchen right now. All I've done is clean it. And then on this piece, I've come in with my 120 sanding disc. You won't be able to really see this in the camera, but if you look at it from the angle, you can see there is a sanding pattern, and we created a tooth. Okay, so the most important step as far as I'm concerned is this step right here. You have got to create your first level, or your first layer has to be your most important layer, because if this layer is not done correctly, everything that you do on top of this layer is not important if the first layer fails. So I love to use XIM bonding primer. I've been using it for over 20 years in our faux finishing business, and it is a fabulous product. The adhesion is bar none. Now there's many bonding primers on the market that you guys can use. Just make sure that it is actually for adhesion. It doesn't just say bonding on the can. Don't use an all-in-one primer that just happens to say good bonding. Make sure it's for adhesion, and that way you won't have any issues going forward. So what I do is I put 2 very thin coats of the bonding primer down, waiting about, 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the product, between layers. And then you want that to dry well enough so that you cannot scratch it off with your fingernail. If you can scratch your bonding primer off with your fingernail, you either don't have enough product, you don't have a quality product, or it's not dry enough. So that is very important, guys. Make sure that it is on there before you move to the next step. All right, so once that is dried, depending on your temperature, your humidity, it can be anywhere from 1 to 6 hours. As a rule of thumb, I like to wait at least a minimum of 4 hours. All right, so your next step, now you're ready to create your color or your base for your pour. Now, years ago, when we started making these videos, we talked about bare paint and primer. And really, paint and primer is more of a marketing ploy than actually having the primer in the paint. Basically what it is it's telling you that it is a higher pigmented paint, meaning that you only have to maybe use 1 or 2 coats. So what we use now, Behr has changed the name of their paint. And what they call it now is Marquee. This is the one I like to use. It's in a satin or eggshell. You don't want to use a matte, and you don't want to use a high gloss. Now, if you use this type of paint, you need to let that paint off gas for a minimum of 24 hours. All paint releases gas once you paint it. Even if you're painting on the wall, it takes time for those gases to release. So you want to make sure you wait at least 24 hours. Now, if you don't want to wait 24 hours, we love to use the Stone Coat Countertop undercoating. This is in place of your Behr paint or your Sherwin-Williams paint or any other house paint that you may use. So with this undercoating, all you do, paint 2 coats, lightly sanding in between coats. And the great thing about this is you only have to wait about 4 hours before you pour your epoxy. You're not going to get the off-gassing of the ammonias that you get with a latex paint. If you don't let your paint off-gas, it can cause some negative reactions with your epoxy. So if you're using a latex paint, make sure you do that 24 hours. You're using the undercoating, you only have to wait 4 hours. Remember, it's either or, not both. At this point, you're ready to do your pour, whether it be any kind of design that you want to do. But if you want to do a marble or a granite, we have tons of videos to show you guys different options on what you can pour on your existing countertop. But let's say that you decided to leave your backsplash intact and you didn't take it off. You're going to have to do something with the design prior to doing your epoxy so that it stays. What I recommend, if you're doing really quick finishes, maybe flip houses or rental houses, there is a really cool product that you can use. Get them at your big box store, and they're the stone textured sprays. All you do, spray this on there, let it dry, and then you'll go and pour your epoxy over the top. Another really cool, fun design is using the Montana marble spray. Now I have a video where I show how I did a whole countertop with our Montana marble spray, and we will link that in the description below. Another thing that you could do is hand paint your design on your backsplash, and that way when you do pour your epoxy, that design is going to stay and it's not going to run. So I will link some videos in the description of this video to show you some different options. Now, one of my very favorite things to do, because I'm a faux finisher and I love taking it to the next level, is using texture mediums and foils to really raise your game. So let me show you what we have over here. So this is just a countertop. You still see a lot of these countertops in homes back in the 80s where they have the integrated sinks, and they're kind of a man-made material. A lot of them have yellowed over the years or cracked. And one thing that you can do to really take sinks like this to the next level is apply a texture medium. Use our decorative rollers that have different designs. There's hundreds of designs. You can paint it, you can add a glaze, you can add foils. So much fun. And then when you put your epoxy, you really do get a cool look. By doing this, you're keeping your design on your backsplash. I do have a video where I did this exact project, and I will link it in the description below as well. Now, it's also very important if you're doing an on-site pour to prep your work area, which is your cabinets, your flooring, and your walls. So I do have two very detailed videos that I'm going to link also in the description of this video that will walk you through each step and show you what products you need to be able to prep your area. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found value in the content that I gave you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach us at rhonda@rk3designs.com. Also, this summer, we are offering free shipping on all of our products for orders over $100. So check out our website, rk3designs.com. You can check out our website under affiliate links, and we will take you to Artistic Painting Studio. I'd also like to invite you to our new Insiders group. It is growing by leaps and bounds, and we're having so much fun in the group. Check out RK3 Designs Epoxy Insiders and join us and post your videos and let everyone see how great your work is. Guys, we would love to have you join us here in our studio for our hands-on classes. If you can't though, we do offer a very detailed online course. Check out onlineepoxypro.com. All right, guys, until next time, remember, don't be scared, move forward, and be creative.